Hello again. Welcome back to Section B or Section 2 of the Employee Manual. This is Policies and Procedures of Teaching Class at Crunch. And again, I'm not going to read you every single bullet point. There's a lot of important things in here, but I'm going to touch on the most important or the things that I've seen over my years. I've been a group fitness manager for about 24 years, and I've been a group fitness instructor for almost 30 years. And so these are things that I've seen through the years that kind of tend to happen over and over again. So we want to make sure that everybody's clear from the start about what we expect or what I expect and how we do things at Crunch. So jumping in, all of our formats are freestyle with the exception of Zumba. Every class we do is freestyle. So you should never be doing the same class every week or every day. Even if it's a minor change, your class should always be different. Freestyle means it's freestyle. You shouldn't be doing a set routine for 3 months or 6 months. I know some of these new certifications, some of the bar certifications, some of the Pilates certifications are a little bit pre-choreographed, and they're setting that you must do this structured format for a specific period of time, and we don't do that at Crunch. If you have that certain bar certification, that's fine, but you need to rearrange whatever you teach every week or every day. Here's an example. I teach the retro aerobics, group fitness, high-low aerobics class 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, but at different clubs. And I'll use a similar choreography, but I may change a hamstring curl here. I may throw in a knee lift here. So it's slightly different, but most of it is the same, but at least it feels different to the members, and I use different music. So you always want to make the class feel different in some way. You don't have to radically change every single step, every single movement, but there should be some different movements, different modifications or variations in every class you teach. It should be interesting, and that should help you become more creative and get you out of your rut, so to speak, and it helps the members keep coming back because they feel the variety, and that's what we want in our Crunch classes, the variety. So freestyle at the end of the day, and I'll tell you, if I find, or if my group fitness manager finds that you're kind of doing a monotonous, the same type of thing every class, we'll give the class to somebody else at the end of the day. So you want to make sure your classes are exciting and different every time you teach. Schedules at Crunch are quarterly. We have 4 schedules a year. And on top of that, we have holiday schedules. So there's a spring, summer, fall, winter. And then we also have special holiday schedules for the weeks of July 4th, the week of Labor Day, and of course for the weeks of Thanksgiving and the 2 weeks around Christmas and New Year's. But we don't change schedules every month like some other clubs do. So when you are, given a class or offered a certain class, you have to commit to teaching it for the quarter. So if I came to you and said, I have a Monday 5:30 p.m. cycle class, and it goes from January to April 1st, and you say, oh yes, I can take it. Oh, but I'm going to be gone the last half of February and all of March because I'm going to be in Italy. Then you can't take the class because you're going to miss 50% of the schedule. So you need to think about your schedule, whatever you've got planned in your life. If you can't commit to teaching at least 75% of the quarter, then don't accept the class, because nothing's more frustrating for me or for another group fitness manager to put the schedule together in the quarterly, and then to hear you come back and say, oh, I'm gone for the next 10 weeks on a cruise or whatever, and I don't have any subs. I can't find anybody to sub for me. So make sure that you plan your week, your life, your month, however you want to look at it, and make sure that you only commit to classes that you can commit to for the entire quarter, because we don't change things every month. And even with that, when the quarter changes, when we transition from winter quarter into spring quarter, from January to April, if everything's going well, if your class at 5:30 cycle on Monday is high attended, you're happy, the members are happy, it's just going to roll over into the next schedule. We don't radically rearrange the schedule every single quarter just because. We only change things every quarter if a class has low attendance, if we got a new format coming out that we want to put on the schedule, things like that. But if everything's going well, everything on the quarterly schedule just rolls over to the next quarter, and we just kind of keep going on. So you would continue teaching that class, that Monday 5:30 cycle that I used in the example. If everything's great, if there's good attendance and you're happy, I'm happy, you own that class and you'll keep teaching it for as long as it's successful and as long as you're happy teaching it. So again, we don't totally scrap the schedule and start over every time a new schedule comes around. Things just tend to go on and on as long as everybody's happy and things are successful. We do have holiday schedules, as I mentioned. It's very important for anything that you respond to our emails. Sometimes as the regional manager, I'll send an email to everybody from the entire East Coast, from Maryland all the way down to South Carolina. Sometimes you'll get emails from your regional or your group fitness coordinator manager in your area. Whatever the case, it's very important if we ask for information that you respond quickly and give us that information. And case in point for the holiday schedules. Example, I just did this yesterday because coming up is our July 4th holiday schedule. I'll send an email out to all instructors saying the July 4th schedule is coming. It's going to cover these dates, Sunday, whatever, to Saturday, whatever. It covers the week of whatever the holiday falls in. And I'll say the deadline for this schedule is whatever the date is. That's when I have to put all my changes into the Crunch website or the Crunch schedule building system. We can't make any changes after the deadline. So I need all of my information before the deadline. And I'll give you that email a good 2-3 weeks, a month maybe, before the deadline. So we have a good bit of time to talk about it. But in those schedule emails, I'll ask, we're going to have a holiday schedule. For example, July 4th, regular schedule Sunday, Monday. July 4th happens to be on a Wednesday this year. We'll have a reduced schedule on Tuesday. We'll have a special morning schedule on July 4th, which is a Wednesday. Thursday, July 5th, we'll go back to normal, but we'll slightly reduce the schedule because people tend to keep going. And then Friday, Saturday too as well. So I asked for people to let me know, are you around that week or around that holiday? If so, are you able to teach your normally scheduled classes? If you're out of town, I need to know because I'm going to try to schedule things consistently. I'm not going to radically change the schedule for the holiday. We're going to kind of keep things consistent for our members so they don't have to keep guessing. They know the schedule because we keep it kind of going in the same stream all the way through so it's not shocking or confusing. So it's very important that you let me know or let your group fitness manager know when you're out of town for holidays, if you don't want to teach, if you want to teach special classes, so that we can properly schedule around the holidays. And again, in the handbook, there's a listing of all the holidays that we go through and what we do special schedules for. All right, class policies. Meat and potatoes of this particular email. Again, I'm not going to go over every single bullet point here, but they're all important. Top of the list, most important to me, be on time. And let me give you my definition of on time and what my expectation at Crunch is about being on time for your classes. Let's say again, the same example, you're teaching Monday night, 5:30 p.m. cycle. We call it the ride, but it's our cycling class. 5:30 p.m. You should be in the building, clothes changed, ready to teach, ready to plug in your iPod, to put on your microphone at 5:25, 5 minutes before class starts. You should not be parking your car at 5:29 with 1 minute left to go. You should not be, down the street. You should be in the club, standing at the door, ready to teach 5 minutes before your class starts. That even is the case, let's say there's a 5:30 class and you're teaching at 6:30. The class will end about 3 to 5 minutes to give people transition time to get in, get out. But you should still be standing at that door 5 minutes before the class is ready to start, even though there's a class going on already. The one thing I will not tolerate is these divas who fly in with 20 seconds left. They just breeze by the front desk and they just walk in the club. They don't talk to anybody because they're always rushing and running late. And the class starts late. No. I don't tolerate that at Crunch. You got one strike and that's it. You got to be on time 5 minutes before your class every single time. Of course, accidents happen. Traffic jams happen. That's when you use your phone. You call the club. You call your group fitness manager. You call me, somebody. You communicate. You don't just show up late and don't let anybody know. If you have a legitimate problem with traffic, with something at work, something happened, you have to stay late at work, then communicate with somebody so that we know. But we will not tolerate lateness for classes. And I'm not trying to be nasty or whatever, but I have fired many good instructors because they cannot manage their time. If you cannot show up on time, you cannot teach for crunch. I can't say any plainer than that. All right, so we're going to go some other points here. Same kind of with that time management thing, your class should begin and end on time. We schedule classes back to back, and we only have one studio, so we're going to pack as many classes during prime time as we can. So let's say, for example, you're teaching some crunch formats, and most of the crunch formats are 30 minutes in length. So let's say you're teaching 5:30 to 6 p.m. Belly button thighs, and then you're teaching 6 to 6:30 Pilates. Your class at 5:30 should go from 5:30 to about 5:57. Give yourself about 2-3 minutes to transition, because some members will be waiting outside to come in just for Pilates. A lot of members will take back-to-back classes to get that hour workout. But the reason we do the 30-minute classes is to give people that option. If they're busy, they can come in and get 30 minutes and go, or they can stay for multiple classes and they can cross-train their body without risk of overuse injuries. But you need to manage your time. There will be a clock in the room, so you end your class 2, 3, 4 minutes before the next class. So your class starts at 6 o'clock, and your class is supposed to end at 6:30, or on the schedule it says 6 to 6:30, and Zumba starts at 6:30, and there's 40 people at the door waiting to come in for Zumba. You should be finishing up. You should be wrapping up your Pilates class at the latest 6:28. You need to have that 2 to 3 minute transition time between classes, even if there's no equipment. So time management is critical, because we're going to have back-to-back classes, and we're not going to change our scheduling process just because somebody can't properly manage their time. So make sure you keep an eye on the clock, plan your class appropriately, start on time, end on time. All right. There are keys. Our stereos are locked. Our equipment is new and it's very expensive, so members cannot use the stereo when a class is not going on. The keys are kept at the front desk. Every club's going to be a little bit different, but there will be a drawer. Usually the keys, I found over the years that people tend to forget they have the keys, drop them in their purse, drop them in their bag, and take them home with them by accident. So all of our keys will be on a long wooden ruler, like the old elementary school rulers. So it's a lot less convenient to put it in your bag. So you can remember to bring it back to the front desk. But if you're starting a group of classes, like let's say you're starting lunch classes, you're the first class at lunch, you would get the key, you would unlock the stereo. If you're the last class in the evening, if you're a 7 p.m. class and there's no class after yours, when you're done, you lock up the stereo, turn it off, and then bring everything back to the front desk. So always make sure the stereo is locked. And anytime you come in to teach, if you notice the stereo is unlocked or the stereo was left on, report that. You're not calling anybody out, but we need to know if the stereo has been left on, or if the keys have been left in the door, or the stereo has not been locked. Because again, I've learned the hard way in Richmond. People will get in, if they can get into the stereo, they will abuse it, they will damage it, they will break it. And that's not what we want, especially with brand new equipment. So locking is very important. We have a ticket system at Crunch. Again, like I mentioned in the first video, there are different levels of membership, and that first level, that base level, does not include group fitness classes. So 2 reasons for the tickets. One, we want to make sure people that are coming to our classes are paying for it. They have either the Peak or the Peak Plus or the Peak Plus Results membership. Base members are not entitled to classes. From time to time, we'll have an open house and invite everyone to come. And if somebody walks in who's a new member and says, "Can I try this out?" As an instructor, you can say, "Absolutely, you can try this class." But explain to them, if you like this, you're going to have to upgrade your membership to the next level. As a base member, you cannot continue to take classes, but you can invite them to try it out. Give them a sample. So that's the one reason we want to make sure that everybody who comes to class should have a ticket, either from the front desk. Some clubs use laminated tickets. Other clubs will have like a little kiosk that will print a ticket, like a receipt, and they'll bring that to you. But as the instructor, you will collect tickets at the beginning of every single class. Every person that comes in should give you a ticket. Even if you're an employee, if you're coming to take a Zumba class, you'll get a ticket and give it to the instructor as any other member would. So make sure that you collect tickets. It's very important. The other reason we do tickets is for classes with limited equipment. Our TRX class typically will only have 24 to 28 TRX straps. So we're only going to give out 24 tickets because once we run out of equipment, you really can't take the class. Same thing with our ride classes. We have 24 up to 35 bikes, and sometimes more people than that want to take class. So when we run out of bikes, when we run out of tickets, class is sold out. So any class that has limited equipment, we're going to have tickets for, and we're going to monitor how many tickets we've given out so that we know we're not going to oversell that class. So that's the reason for the tickets. So again, it's very important that you collect tickets in all classes, and especially in the classes with the limited equipment, so that you know we're not going to have to turn somebody away when they're in the room because there's no equipment. All right. So next, I want to talk about just this scenario. If nobody shows up, like say you're there, you're on time for your 5:30 class, you're there at 5:25, at 5:30, say there's a big storm outside, a huge wreck on the main highway or road there, you're sitting there and there's nobody there. Okay, so here's the policy. For a 30-minute class, for one of our crunch formats that are 30 minutes, you wait 5 minutes. So by 5:35, if nobody's there, you can leave. Unless, of course, you're teaching at 6 o'clock, then you have to stay. For a 45-minute or a 60-minute class, for the longer classes, you need to wait 10 minutes. So if your class goes from 5:30 to 6:30, you need to wait till 5:40. If by 5:40 there's still nobody there, you can leave. You'll still get paid for the class. You're still paid because you were there and we thought people were going to come, but you don't have to stick around after that. So for a 30-minute class, wait 5 minutes. If no one's there, you can leave. Clock in and just write 0 as your attendance. For a 45 or a 60-minute class, wait 10 minutes. If no one's there after 10 minutes, you can leave, clock in, and write 0 in your attendance. So that's for the no participants. Quickly on late participants, people will notoriously come in late for class, 5, 10, sometimes 20 minutes late. So you as the instructor, it's kind of your call. I'll leave that up to you, but it's very important that they warm up. Nobody should walk into class 15 minutes late and just jump right into jumping jacks or whatever your high intensity portion is you're doing. So you need to approach that person and you can say, I'm sorry, you're too late. After 10 minutes, you've missed the warm up and you'll have to come back at another time. Or you can say, welcome, before you join in, make sure you do a warm up. That's either one is acceptable. We're going to have your back if you, I don't want to use this word, but if you want to throw somebody out because they're too late. Because if you're doing an hour Zumba class and somebody shows up 20 minutes late, they've missed the warm-up. They are really putting themselves in injury. And they're disrupting your flow, because you're going to have to talk to them, and you're right in the middle of your class. You're just getting in your groove, so to speak. So you do have the ability as the instructor, if somebody shows up that late, to tell them, I'm sorry, you can't join because we started 20 minutes ago. So we'll have your back if you do that, but just make sure you communicate properly and professionally and respectively with every member, whichever way you want to approach it. You can have them do their own warm-up, or you can tell them, sorry, But within 10 minutes, we allow people in. After that, it's kind of up to you how you want to approach it. All right, so the other points here I think are really self-explanatory. Introduce yourself, always explain what the class is, always explain at Crunch, most of our classes are not traditional. For example, our Yoga Body Self class is not your traditional yoga class. So whenever I teach that class, the first thing I say is, welcome to Yoga Body Sculpt. This is a non-traditional yoga class. So everybody knows what they're in for. They know we're not going to sit there and om for 15 minutes. They know it's going to be a different take on traditional yoga. So make sure you explain what they're in for at the beginning of every class. And be engaging and fun and exciting, and teach to all levels. Like I mentioned in the first video, there should always be a level 1, a level 2, a level 3, beginner, intermediate, advanced, hard, harder, hardest, however you want to do it. But you always introduce whatever movement, whatever choreography you're going to do with the base, the easy version, then add a layer to make it a little more challenging and give people the option, and then add a third layer to make it even more challenging and give everyone the option of one of those 3. So that everybody feels successful, everybody feels good, and there's no questions, there's no drama, no one puts herself in injury. And I always talk about, the injury safety aspects of anything. Make sure that people understand how they should be squatting, how they should be lunging, if they're jumping, how they should be landing, anything like that. And again, I know many of you, this is old hat, you've done this, but make sure that you're in that kind of zone, that you're explaining, coaching people on the proper way to do something, because the last thing we want anybody to do is hurt themselves and not come to class. All right. Music, it's always important to use good music. When I come and do a training, I will provide music. I will bring a mix that I make, edit and mix all my own music for my classes. So I will bring music to a training, and I will give that to all the instructors. But you don't have to use my music, but make sure you use good music. And here's some things with music. Certain classes, like our ride classes, our cycle classes, our tread and shed classes, our treadmill classes, can use a Spotify playlist. Zumba, their music, there's stops and starts. There's a song, there's a break, and there's another song. For a lot of our classes, the music should be continuously mixed from beginning to end. There should be no breaks. So our chisel class, our belly button thighs, our 30 and 30, our Tabata style overdrive classes, you should not be using a Spotify playlist for that kind of class. You should have proper fitness music. Whatever beats PM is appropriate for that class, but it should be continuously mixed from beginning to end, and most often edited to 32 count. There's tons of music companies that provide music. So again, if you're unsure of whatever format you're going to teach, ask. But know this, Spotify playlists do not work for most crunch classes. They work for the ride, they work for the tread and shed class, and that's kind of about it. You should not be using a Spotify playlist for many of the crunch formats. And again, feel free to ask if you're not sure about that, but you want to make sure you give good music, appropriate music for a fitness class. We do provide you a microphone. You are not required to use it, but in a large room, it's good for your personal safety to use a microphone. But again, we're not going to force you to use it, but it is there for you to use. All of our equipment is provided for you. A lot of people bring their own yoga mats, but we will have yoga mats. We will have every piece of equipment that is necessary for class. This is brand new equipment, so what I'm expecting is take care of it. The stereo and all of the equipment, the dumbbells, the 360s, the BOSUs, the TRX, anything in that room, you're expected to take care of, because here's the thing, we're opening a new club. We're spending millions of dollars in all this new equipment. That means there's no budget to buy anything else for many years, for about 5 years. So we can't replace, broken whatever in the first 6 months, because there's no budget for it. There's no budget for purchasing new equipment or replacing old equipment within the first 5 years, because it's expected that equipment is going to last that long. So you need to take care of our bikes, take care of our TRX straps, take care of all the equipment, because we can't replace it. If it's broken, it's going to stay broken. So take care of it. Train and coach your members how to also take care of and properly store the equipment. And I know it sounds kind of silly, but members need to be taught how to properly store a yoga mat, because they'll throw them everywhere. How to properly store our hanging, stretching or fitness mats. How to properly store the dumbbells, because they'll just toss them in the bin. You, as the instructor, need to take the initiative and be the leader of the room and show them how to store the equipment. And everybody's going to be happy, because again, when it breaks, if it's in that first year to 2 years, we're not going to replace it because there's no money to replace it. All right, let's do a quick talk about inclement weather. Everybody has inclement weather. Let's use an example down in Charleston, hurricanes. We typically, luckily, tend to have good notice when a hurricane is coming. So we'll know a week or two in advance that this one is coming, tropical storm or hurricane, whatever. So we will plan accordingly. We will communicate with the staff. We will send out emails. We will send out texts to instructors saying the club's going to close at this time on this date. Classes are canceled here, et cetera, et cetera. And then we will also post all of that information on our Facebook page so members can see what's happening. And we tend to communicate with inclement weather by Facebook. We encourage our members to check our Facebook page, and we'll say, due to this, we're going to close. Now, sometimes in the northern states, in Virginia here, and probably Baltimore as well, there's a call for snow, but there's never a really good idea of how much we're going to get or how much ice we're going to get. Sometimes it rains in Virginia, and then overnight the temperature drops below freezing, and the whole road freezes over overnight, and it's an ice slick. So a lot of times in the morning, in the winter, we'll wake up and we'll realize that the roads are just too dangerous to get on because it rained and then it froze. So we might do some of these last minute cancellations in that case. So if that happens, usually you'll get a group text or a group email from me or your group fitness manager saying, due to the conditions of the road or whatever, the club's going to open 2 hours late. We have a delayed opening. Instead of opening at 5 a.m., we're going to open at 8 a.m. Classes will begin at noon, or classes will begin at 10, whatever the case. But inclement weather, just keep your phone nearby or your iPad or whatever, however you receive messages, and look for a text or an email from one of your managers. And you can also check Facebook yourself. You're encouraged to like the Facebook page of whatever club you work at, so you can always check. We do post announcements pretty regularly and frequently on Facebook about what's happening with inclement weather, and we'll try to communicate as fast as we can. I know a lot of times instructors are like, what's happening with this, what's happening with this, but there's usually kind of a group discuss about any kind of inclement weather, and everybody has to come to a general consensus before the decision is made. So it may take a little time, but we'll try to get the information to you as fast as possible. All right, we're almost done. Class attendance is how we measure the success of a class. So we want our classes to be full. Obviously, some classes, 6 p.m., that's prime time, that's major. Those classes might have 60, 70 people in it. The lunchtime classes, they might not. There's probably going to be a little bit lower traffic, but based on the time of day and kind of based on comparatively the other classes at that time is how we measure the success of a class. So let's use lunchtime for an example. We have lunchtime classes at 2 of our clubs here in Richmond, Monday through Friday. And of course, Friday is always a lower day. It's just expected because people tend to go out to lunch, whatever. But we know just from historical data that our Monday through Thursday, 12 p.m. class, 12 to 12:30 because it's a crunch format, they tend to get 15 to 20 people. So let's say a new instructor, I have an instructor move away because her husband got a new job. So I put in a new instructor on Tuesday at noon, and that class was a chisel class, which is our body sculpting class. It's averaging for the last 6 months, 18 people. Great, that's fantastic. That's great. Anything in double digits is a good number. Of course, the more is the better, but if you're teaching, say, 6 a.m., some of our classes at 6 a.m. struggle, but they get 8. And based on that time of morning, 8 is not terrible. When we start getting 3 and 4 and 2, that's when I see red flags. That's when I say, oh, something's got to change. So let's go back to our Monday. That instructor, I put in this new instructor, we're averaging 18, and I'm looking at attendance over the next 3 to 4 weeks, and I'm slowly seeing it go down. So started with 18. The first week she taught was 18. The second week she taught was 15. The third week she taught was 12. The fourth week she taught, there were 8. And then this week she had 6. Okay, something's wrong. Clearly, I don't think they're connecting with that instructor. Doesn't mean this instructor is bad. It just means that they're just not a good fit for that time and that group of people. So we need to go back to the drawing board. We need to, find an instructor that these people are going to, attract to and gravitate to and come back, and we want to find this instructor a time that she's going to be more successful or he's going to be more successful. So if I see a class trending downward in attendance, then we're going to make a change. Either I'm going to make a change as the manager, or I'm going to speak to the group fitness manager in your area and say, what we need to fix this. Now that's an example of clearly it was the instructor. Other times, if we're just not sure, really attendance boils down to 3 things. It's either the instructor, the time of the day, or the class format. So let's say, for example, we just opened, this club, we're about to open this club in Mount Pleasant. We're just going to kind of take a guess, and we're going to put a schedule together based on what we think people want. So let's say we notice 5:30 p.m. on Monday, which is prime time, so that class is expected to have good attendance. Um, let's say all the other classes at 5:30 Monday through Thursday have good attendance, decent attendance, but this Monday class is struggling a little bit. It's a little lower than the others. So that could be a reason that maybe the format is not right. Maybe we want a different format because Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday 5:30 is doing pretty well. So it's not the time necessarily. So Monday, it could be the instructor, or it could just be we need to try another format. So we would do that, one of those two things. We wouldn't do both at the same time. We want to make small changes so we know what the problem is. So first we might keep the instructor and change the format. And if still no change, then we might change the instructor to see if we get a different point of view. And sometimes down the road, say we open this club and we see all of the 5:30 classes aren't really doing that well, then it could be that 5:30 is just a little too early, that people can't get there after work. Maybe 5:45 is a little better. So if we see a class with low attendance historically, 1 week, if you got an attendance of 15, 15, 15, then you drop down to 4 and you go right back up to 15, that's not a big deal. Something happened on that particular day that attendance was down. But if we see a trend, or historically an average of below average attendance, then we're going to make a change. Because we're not going to leave classes on the schedule with 2 and 3 people for a long time. We'll let it kind of grow and see if it can get legs and gain some momentum. But if a class is that low in attendance, either there's no demand for class at that time, or the instructor or the format is not exactly right, and we're going to make a change because of that. So if you're teaching a class with low attendance, try to market it, try to push people to come, we provide you with lots of different social media templates that you can use to promote your classes on social media, and you can use those templates to promote your classes and try to get attendance up. But at the end of the day, no, if attendance is low, we're going to make a change. So don't get your feelings hurt. Again, it doesn't mean you're a bad instructor. It just means that whatever combination wasn't the right fit. So we're going to keep trying until we find the right combination and the right fit. All right. Finally, subbing. So you have your classes, you are owning your classes as an instructor. Anytime you're unavailable to teach, if you're going on vacation, if you have a sick child, if you're sick yourself, if you have to stay late at work, whatever the reason is, if you know you can't teach your class, you are responsible for finding your subs. You are responsible for finding your subs. We give you an instructor phone list or an instructor contact list with phone numbers and emails. We have an app that we use for people to find subs. Anyway, any of those tools you want to use, but you need to use those tools to find your subs. You need to send out emails, you need to call, text, put it on the app, whatever, but you are responsible for finding your sub. And if you cannot find a sub for your class, you are still responsible for teaching that class or getting it covered. We do use an app, and I'll give you an example. This has happened more than I like for it to happen, but it does happen. I have an instructor who, let's say for example, needed a class covered next Wednesday. Today is Wednesday, but they went next Wednesday, they needed their class covered. Let's say we fast forward to Tuesday, they still haven't, found a sub. And I'm managing 5 clubs myself in Richmond, and also managing the entire East Coast. So I have hundreds of instructors, hundreds of classes, lots of balls in the air. So I don't have time to monitor the app. I don't have time to monitor every single instructor and whether or not they found a sub. So it's your responsibility as the instructor to communicate with me or with your group fitness manager about how you're going, how you're faring with finding an instructor, a sub. So let's say, for example, next Wednesday, you're in the Bahamas. And this has happened. This is a true story. In the Bahamas, your class time comes and goes. There's no instructor there to teach class. I get a call from the club manager saying, so-and-so did not show up to teach your class today. There were 15 people here. Do you know what's going on? Of course, I don't, because that person didn't communicate with me either. So I call and send a text to you in the Bahamas, and the response is, oh, well, I put it on the app and nobody took it. That's not an excuse. Simply by putting your available class on the app or by sending an email saying I need a sub on July 4th, that doesn't mean you're off the hook. You're off the hook when somebody says, yes, I can take that class and sub it for you. That's when you're in the clear. And when you get that confirmation from whoever, you need to forward it to me, forward it to your group fitness manager, cover your bases, make sure that you've documented that, yes, I have a sub. Because we have had times in the past where people had subs and then the sub forgot, wrote down the wrong date, wrote down the wrong time, wrote down the wrong club, and didn't show up to teach your class. So make sure you document with your manager, with me, whoever, and make sure follow up with that instructor. Remember you're teaching for me next Wednesday. Don't forget, that kind of thing, because you're going to be held responsible if you do not show up to teach your class. And we have a zero tolerance for no call, no show. If you don't communicate with me and you don't show up to teach your class, so if you were in the Bahamas and you posted on the app, no one took it, but then you still went to the Bahamas and you didn't tell me, hey, I couldn't find a sub for my class in 2 days, then you're gone. I don't care what the excuse is. If you cannot find a sub, communicate to somebody and let us know. We can help. I don't know why, but a lot of times if I send an email to the same exact people you did saying she needs a sub tomorrow, somebody will say, yeah, I can do it. I don't know why that is, but I can help, but I got to know. I can't read your mind. Or your manager in your area can do the same thing, but communicate if you have trouble finding a sub. We can try to help you, but don't just leave town. Don't just no-show to your class because you couldn't find a sub, because that's the fastest way for you to lose your classes. And again, we have apps we use. You can use text, you can use email, whatever you find is best for you, but you find your own subs. And that is pretty much it as far as policies, procedures, expectations. Again, there may be some things here and there that you may have questions out that I didn't cover today. Feel free to ask me. Feel free to ask your group fitness manager if there's any questions that pop up. Down the road, we're opening more clubs. Something may come up that nobody thought about. So we may have to adopt a new policy, adopt a new procedure because of it. But for the time being, these are our policies and procedures. This is how we do things. I'm glad to have you here. Hopefully this was all very clear and you have a very clear and better understanding of how we do things at Crunch. It's not dramatically different from any other club you probably worked at, but we want to make sure we set the precedent at the beginning so you know what's up. And again, thank you for watching. Feel free to ask questions, and we'll see you soon.